She claimed I was dead and stole my father's legacy. Now I'm taking it back. When my dad died, I didn't even get a phone call. I found out 3 weeks later from a Facebook post shared by one of his coworkers, a grainy photo of him with the words, "Rest in peace, brother," scrawled above it. My heart stopped. I was in Seoul at the time, finishing a work contract. My stepmom had every way to contact me, email, phone, even WhatsApp, but she didn't. She let me find out from a stranger on the internet that my father, the man who raised me alone after my mom died, was gone. And then I learned she'd already sold the house, my childhood home. No funeral invitation, no will reading, no closure, just silence. Growing up, my stepmom always hated me. She played nice when my dad was around, but the second we were alone, it was another story. She'd accidentally donate my favorite books. She once told me my real mom was lucky to die before seeing what I turned into. When I got into university, she said my acceptance letter was probably a mistake, but my dad still married her, even when I begged him not to. Years later, he told me why. After mom passed, he spiraled hard. He was scared of being alone, scared of failing me. She swooped in like she had all the answers, cooked, cleaned, acted like a savior. He said, she reminded me of control, and I needed something to hold on to. By the time he realized who she really was, she'd isolated him from most of his friends, cut off old family connections, and threatened to leave him completely broke in a divorce by claiming he abused her. So he stayed, for peace, for appearances, and maybe because he thought he didn't deserve better. But I knew he regretted it, and now she was erasing him. When I flew home, I visited the law office my dad always used. His lawyer looked at me like he'd seen a ghost. He said, "I thought you were dead." That's what she had told him. She'd forged an email saying I died overseas in a hiking accident. She even faked obituary links, told the lawyer she was the only family left, claimed she wanted to honor dad's wishes by handling the estate herself. I showed him my passport to prove I was in Seoul the whole time and just arrived back. He paled and said his will left everything to me, the house, the savings, and an untouched $500,000 in an inheritance fund he'd saved since I was a kid. She wasn't mentioned once, but she'd already liquidated most of it. And worst of all, she sold my mom's wedding ring, the one he kept locked away from me. She said it was just junk. I asked his lawyer how he died, and he said it was a heart attack, but that answer didn't sit right with me. Dad was healthy. He biked every morning, had zero heart issues. I requested the hospital records and saw the cause of death was heart failure in his sleep, but the medical examiner's name was one I didn't recognize, some friend of the family she had connections with. When I called the clinic where he was last seen alive, the nurse on the phone hesitated, then said, "I don't want to get involved," but we were shocked. He came in 2 days before that and said he felt great. That's when it hit me. She did much more than steal my father's legacy. I knew I had to do something, and I couldn't just sue. She had friends in local offices. Her sister worked for the DA, so I emailed her, told her I'd heard about dad and wanted to reconnect. She responded, "Maybe we can talk over coffee. I hope you've grown up since you ran off." I smiled reading that, because I wasn't coming for coffee. Over the next month, I hired a private eye to look into my stepmom. Meanwhile, I gathered everything: IP logs, security footage from the law office, estate sale listings with her name on them, and even tracked down the buyer of my mom's ring and paid $2,000 to get it back. Then I filed reports with the IRS, the state bar, and the ethics board. She never reported the inheritance she stole. Over $500,000 was just gone, with no paper trail. But I gave them the paper trail. When it came time for our coffee meetup, I recorded the entire conversation and let her talk. She said, "After what I put up with from your father, I earned the money, I gave him stability. You just took." She laughed. I didn't, until 2 weeks later, when she got a cease and desist and her accounts were frozen. She's under investigation for fraud, forgery, and now, suspicious death. Her sister was caught covering for her and was forced to resign. Eventually, I got the house and my inheritance back. I used part of the funds to start a scholarship in my dad's name. I don't know if I believe in hell, but I hope my stepmom feels like she's there in prison.